So no one on listening to the podcast maybe someone might recognize a difference in the sound. We kind of punched up the levels a little bit, but in particular, we moved. So instead of facing the wall of the window, we're now facing the door. Moved all the mics on the other side. They're organized now, where they're in the same order, in line with their numbering system. That the one problem is we moved the power strip, and it's really easy to just kick the power with your.
You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey.
Okay, so every time we come in here and record something, we like to warm up, right? We do a little quick hit. We look at the list and we pick something that's not going to last 20 minutes. It's short. It's a quick hit. I don't know. We've called it different names. So my thought was we could put all those together.
And make a whole episode.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome because that means that we can be lazy one week.
That's right. And that's what we're doing. So we record 2 minutes of us talking about what we might talk about and then just copy and paste a bunch of clips.
I'm looking forward to that because we have now been doing this for about 14 or 15 weeks. And I would like to think our style has evolved slightly. For those listeners who have been there since the beginning, you may recall in episode 1, lots of visuals on the video, and lots of chintzy sound effects.
Text message.
I just threw it in there because I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm a video editor. I don't know much about podcasting. And I quickly got feedback that people and people's dogs didn't care for that.
Right. Well, video killed the radio star. Wait.
Radio killed the video star?
What?
It's come full circle, baby. So yeah, we've really pared back the amount of editing that we've done in terms of sound effects and music and all of that. And so the quick hits, I think, will reflect a little bit of inexperience towards the beginning, and hopefully a little bit of growth, a little bit of experience here towards the middle.
Yeah. It'll get louder and better audio quality, I assume.
All right. So I guess with that, now you know what you're going to get. Why don't you enjoy the quick hits?
Into the theme song or?
Yeah, let's do the theme.
Quick hits, give them a try. Sell you what quads are gears awry. Quick hits, they aren't that long. Then they didn't even risk this song.
Quick hit. Here we go.
All right.
Something is due at midnight or 11:59 p.m. What's this one about?
So this one is just kind of classic confusion. What day is it on either side of midnight? First of all, we can get into the whole bit about why are we starting the day at midnight when most people are asleep. But beside that, when you put something out there and say, hey, students in particular submitting a homework assignment, I want you to submit it, on, let's say November 1st at midnight. The immediate confusion to me is,
does that mean midnight when November the 1st starts?
Right.
Or is that actually 11:59
Right.
on the day before November 1st, whatever day that is?
Exactly. Yeah. Halloween maybe. But and that's my point. It's ambiguous, it's confusing, and it's unnecessary. And I've seen people start to do this. I'd like to think I started it worldwide. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's true. Yeah, no, I probably started it. Just make it 11:59. It clears up, because then, do November 1st midnight. And you're like, what do you really mean? I really mean October 31st at 11:59.
Right.
Yeah, that's something different.
So I've only been teaching classes at a college level for 3 semesters. I guess this is my 3rd semester, so I can't even round up and say 3 full semesters yet. But I have 3 completed syllabi. And from day 1, I made it absolutely apparent that when something was due, it was due at 11:59 p.m. before the day rolled over.
Yeah.
And I did that because I just anticipated that students were stupid, but also I have a very tight and unflexible late policy. So if you're late 24 hours from the moment that it was due, 11:59 p.m., then you're going to receive a 10% penalty. If you're late up to 48 hours, but not exceeding 48 hours, then it's a 20% penalty, and I do not accept late work at 48 hours and 1 minute.
What about with a good, valid excuse or anything like that?
I mean, if somebody was hit by a bus or something like that, I'll work with them. But in the small sample size of 2.5 semesters that I've had to deal with so far, the only real excuses I've gotten are, oh, I live far from campus.
Right.
So do I. I don't live on campus. And then the other one was, I double booked myself.
I remember that one.
And this might have even been one of our cold opens.
Yeah.
Because then as soon as I said that wasn't a valid excuse,
COVID.
within 30 minutes, I have COVID. So, yeah. No, I agree. Let's do one more because this is very, very close to this other thing that we talked about. And we seem to talk about biweekly.
Yes.
Which is, what does that mean? Biweekly.
Biweekly. So the question is does it happen 2 times a week or does it happen every other week? Right.
Right. And I don't really know what the intended usage of biweekly is. I assume it's every other week, but I think half people assume it's twice a week.
I love the meme of hey everyone, I need some help. Does biweekly mean every other week or twice a week? And 50% of people say one, and 50% of people. And thanks a lot, internet.
Right. So I think we need to just get rid of the term altogether. Yeah. It doesn't convey meaning.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't serve its purpose in language. And instead, we need to say every Wednesday or twice weekly.
Yeah. Twice weekly or every other week.
Every other Wednesday.
Yeah.
If we're sticking with our Wednesdays.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It's unhelpful if the term is confusing. Even if it has an actual meaning, if people don't use it correctly, my father has always famously said, lexicographers don't write the dictionary, the people do, right? So it really doesn't matter what the literal definition is. It's how it's getting used is what is ultimately going to go into the dictionary.
One more quick hit, since we're just hitting them right off the list here. IEEG. If you have to spend more time explaining what you mean, then why not just say it in the long form and save yourself time?
Just for example,
example given, in example.
I think a lot of people confuse those. One's supposed to be for example, and one is in other words, right? And they rarely get used correctly, I've noticed. And instead of just confusing the terms, why not just say for example or in other words? I mean,
trying to sound smart.
You are.
E.g., sometimes I'll abbreviate things. LOL, raffle.
Right. Ergo. Yeah.
Therefore. Paradigm.
I used to end all my math proofs with QED. Some Latin term for like it has been demonstrated.
There you go. I saw somebody that signed an email one time, PhD, ABD, and it was, they've almost got their PhD except for their dissertation.
Right.
All but dissertation.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to start signing my emails, PhD, AB, PhD.
all but PhD. Very common saying, very common string of words is you have 2 choices, right? Either do A or B. So count the number of choices that you're going to make, that you get to make.
I would say 2.
Yeah. So backing up a second and taking out the context of me asking you, you have 2 choices and I list them. What I'm doing is I'm putting in your brain that a choice
has to be made.
Is an option. Oh. Right? So you do have 2 options, A or B. But how many choices are you going to make?
You can choose not to choose A or B. You can choose to try to have A and B. You can. So you're saying 4?
Well, I mean, you could take it to that level, but I'm literally saying you're making a single choice, and that choice could be A, it could be B, it could be nothing, It could be both, whatever that is. But the act of making a choice isn't synonymous with one of your options. And I think it's just a funny phrasing that, and I think I got this from my dad. So it's more, syntax, semantics. Yeah. But yeah, I hear, I'm going to give you two choices. And then
I usually heard that, and one of the choices was a spanking with the belt.
Right.
So I only had one choice.
Right. Well, and I think it's the grammar nerd in me that thinks, and I think it's arguable that choice is synonymous with option in this case, but to be kind of a little more, I don't know, strict with it, you can make a choice
From
options. So
yeah, this is sort of like something I'm gonna be mean for a second and pick on my wife, and I won't do this very often because she's awesome and way better than me in most things.
But she doesn't listen to this.
But she doesn't listen to this anyway. Somehow, deep in her life history, she had learned to say, "Let me itch that."
Ah, yes.
Like
Yeah.
itch that. You mean scratch that?
Yeah.
And I had a math teacher that would do something similar. Instead of adding things together or multiplying things together, she would say, times it. Like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Not only do you do math, but you teach it to other people.
Yeah.
You'd think that using the appropriate language to describe the process would be important. But nope.
Yeah, the scratch and itch thing, my dad would get on us about that. Yeah.
So I think sometimes we want to verb the noun.
Yeah.
Noun the noun instead of verbing the noun.
It's all about usage, though.
Well, I guess if it conveys a message,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not appropriate.
No, but So
Walking over here
yeah.
and being in close proximity to 3 hospitals, right?
Yeah.
We've got the University of Kentucky, we've got Baptist Health, and then just a short jaunt down the street, we've also got St. Joseph Health.
Yeah.
We have a lot of siren traffic happening. Also situated downtown. Police from time to time will get.
Yep.
I'm staring at a phone right now with an emergency situation where there was a shooting on campus a couple nights ago. These things usually happen after dark, but a lot of sirens. And as a pedestrian, my natural inclination is always just to plug my ear because it hurts.
That's loud.
I don't like it, but you won't do that.
I have this dumb notion that I guess I feel guilty when and keep in mind, I play in bands, and taking care of my ears is pretty important because we got drums blaring and I crank my amp to 11. So I appreciate saying that. I'm willing to say I know that can be damaging. Of course, it's not happening over long periods and things like that. So it's a smart thing to do is to cover your ears, right? It's inconvenient. It's loud. It can hurt. I don't disagree, but I feel guilty because the sirens are on and somebody's either in there or they're on their way to someone who needs help, and I care about my ears. It feels dirty. I
couldn't disagree with you more.
Yeah.
This is a complete lack of seeing things in mutually exclusive light. Just because somebody else is suffering doesn't mean that you must suffer, right? That's almost like self-flagellation. Why?
Yeah.
If you were in that ambulance and everybody around you plugged their ears and they were aware you were there and the siren functioned to alert them to stay out of the path and everybody cleared, who cares if they're plugging their ears?
No.
Who cares if they blow their nose? Who cares what action they're taking in that moment? It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the outcomes of that ambulance. Now, if they were equally ambivalent about moving their car out of the way, or equally ambivalent about driving a little faster or yielding, or a pedestrian decided they just wanted to cross anyway with my ears plugged because, screw you.
Right.
It's my right of way normally. Then I would think guilt could creep in. I think this one's just neurotic.
No, well, and I will add to it that part of it is, and I don't know if this is what made me think of it or this is me kind of backfilling why I'd started doing it. The driver of, the ambulance or the whatever sees someone plug their ears. My first thought is, they're looking at you thinking, like, come on, dude, I'm gonna hurry. I got my siren on. It just, I get this perception where I feel bad for that driver or the patient or the whatever. And again, this is one of those killing apps on your phone, right? This is I can admit, and I am admitting that it's silly, but I guess
it's strong enough that you're willing to risk your hearing.
Well, and again, I'll say, in my understanding about how hearing damage works, it really has to be extended periods, right? I mean, even your watch will tell. If there's a loud noise, your watch is going to go, you're in a loud environment. Be careful.
Yeah,
but if it sustains
30 minutes or more of this 90 or 100 decibel level could cause permanent hearing damage.
Yeah. So I mean, if you lived near a fire station or something like that, then I could imagine having headphones or something to protect your ears. But I don't think there is any real danger of damage. I guess you could argue there's certainly not a downside to covering your ears.
Yeah. I take the philosophy of just because you're suffering doesn't mean I should have to.
No, I mean, well, isn't there a book you read that has a lot of arguments for suffering for, I don't know.
I think that suffering is suffering with purpose. I don't think it's like go out and kick a beehive so that you can have extra suffering today. No, but some people have interpreted that way.
Well, I'm not gonna. This is a purpose to me. I'm showing respect to the driver of the EMS. Like, hey, I'm not even gonna, bother thinking about myself right now. I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of the person in the back. That's really maybe where I'm going with this.
So if you drive an ambulance, I'm curious if you think the actions of pedestrians covering their ears is disrespectful, or if you could care less. I imagine the driver of that ambulance is far more concerned with whether or not traffic is stopped 4 directions before he clears the intersection.
Oh, no doubt. But you can decide whether or not we edit this out. We'll have to ask the driver if they couldn't care less. You just say could care less. So.
Well, yeah.
This one's on the list.
Do you want to just go ahead and
we might as well
crack on?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and tell me.
Okay, so I very often hear, again, another, if anyone recognizes the pattern here, we throw in some grammar ones here. I could care less. Yeah, right. So in the driver example, I could see someone plugging their ears or not plugging their ears. I could care less.
And did I say could or couldn't?
I heard could. We can review the tape and whatever, but I heard I could care less, which I hear often. And if you did say that, you probably say that because you've heard that.
Sure. I didn't even think about it.
And
you're right.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less means there's nothing that would make me care less.
Yeah. Here's the kicker. When I pose this, because I was an idiot when I was younger, and grammar was, man, I would like to mess with people's grammar. I would challenge people on their grammar and all that.
It's a good way to make and keep friends.
It's a great. I had someone show me a gun once. Anyway, no, I actually corrected someone's grammar in front of his to-be girlfriend. And he talked to me, later that night. And he was really pissed, and he was particularly pissed because I guess I kind of made him look like a chump. Oh yeah. And here I was just trying to.
He's trying to impress her.
Yeah, and I'm
word nerds over here, like stepping on his game.
Yeah. So I think he pulled a gun on me years later. So anyway, unrelated. Yeah. Didn't pull a gun on me. Showed me he had a gun.
Oh. Where was the gun at?
In the belt
and did a sentence and a preposition.
Yeah,
same on your team.
See, Winston Churchill has a pretty famous quote about that too. So where are we? So yes, I would say, don't you mean you couldn't care less? And then I get the boneheaded or escape pod argument. Oh no! I mean, I could care a little bit less. I mean, clearly, it's
on the spectrum of care and not care. There's room.
There's a little bit of room.
It's a 6 on the yes scale.
Right. I was like, then don't use the expression. The expression is there to
imply that you have zero care.
Yes, it's supposed to be an exaggeration, right? Because it's not a literal statement. So yeah, trying to argue that I could care a little bit. I mean, that's you're out of here. You can't use it.
Yeah, I'm all about just admitting fault, saying, hey, you know what, I was using that incorrectly, and I will review the tape. I'm curious if unconsciously I did use it incorrectly.
I would just cut this whole segment if I was wrong.
No, I think either way, great conversation. And, cut it, don't cut it. I could care less.
I could care less. Okay, so shout out to Tony Fields. This is his hot take, or whatever we're calling these. Soapbox, yeah. It's right there in the name, dummy. Soapbox.
What do we call this? Soapbox?
Why are we
podcast?
Here? So you go to a restaurant, particularly like a fast food restaurant, where you go to the counter, get your food, and then you go sit down. You get people that show up. Place looks pretty busy. You have a jacket, an umbrella, a bat, whatever. Hey, I'm going to go put my stuff down on that foretop. Well, then we'll go get in line, get our food, and sit in the table. It's solid logic. You don't have to carry that stuff when you're in line. Ensures you a table. So what about every person in front of you that's already in line and they're about to get food? Shouldn't they get first dibs on the table? Question mark.
So I guess the position I'm going to be defending is the table camper. And in fairness, what sort of inspired this one today, we went over to Which, our official, non-official sponsor.
That's right.
As soon as they start giving us free sandwiches, they will be our official sponsor.
That guy likes us though too, the owner.
Oh yeah, he said goodbye, made eye contact.
Yeah,
nice guy.
Yeah,
and
I helped him turn on the open sign today.
Oh, there you go. Maybe that's why he made the eye contact. Yeah. But so we ordered online, and I think this is maybe adding a layer prematurely, but we ordered online, showed up, there were already tables with people's stuff on them. And
so we pushed that stuff off.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Like a cat.
That would be gratifying, wouldn't it? Just to start knocking stuff around. Hey, why'd you do that? Oh, there's nobody here. Boop. It was just an umbrella. It was in my way.
Yeah.
And I wanted that table. But yeah, so people were camping on these tables, and so we did the same. There was 2 tables left. I went ahead and actually sat at the table while Eric got his sandwich. And then when he started walking back, then traded in places, went and picked mine up. But I guess the question here, and maybe the thing that Tony is sort of against, is that okay? Like, are you sort of hacking the system?
Yeah.
And I would say that this is gonna touch on the logic for a lot of other problems. Like, we could probably get into like zipper merge. Mm-hmm. We could get into parking. I've seen instances where somebody has stood in a parking spot and waved people on so that they can eventually offer that parking spot to whomever is picking them up or dropping them off or what have you. And I've also seen this play out in movie theater seats where somebody will say, "Oh, this row is reserved." Yeah. And can you do that? Can you just say, "Dibs, this is mine"?
Yeah. What is the number limitation on how many seats you can say? Like you at a conference luncheon or something, you push the seat, tip the seat up so it's leaning on the table, as to save a spot or put a binder or whatever on. Yeah, like how many seats is one person allowed to? Let me circle back to just kind of
the pure initial point
there. Yeah, the pure initial point is really kind of the first come first serve principle. It's you get here first. The idea would be, especially if the place is pretty busy, the person that just got their food, they should be able to sit down first, because it's likely that someone else
will be getting
up, and then you're still in line. It's going to take you a little while. Instead of you sitting in my seat when I've got hot food, cold food, or whatever I have, I should get that seat. And then the probability that you will have a seat by the time you get to the top of the line is high. So
what you're looking at, I think, is a function of individualism versus somebody who is more into functioning optimal society.
Yeah.
So can I use the word socialist here?
Sure.
And keep it apolitical. But the socialist mindset would be, we want to participate in this system in the most efficient way that's the most beneficial for everybody. Mm-hmm. at the possible expense of me as an individual benefiting in this circumstance.
You might be standing there eating your food, standing up for a minute.
You could, yeah. And if somebody is chatty and not aware, they might not clear the table as quickly.
Yeah.
So the ideal then is seated in the notion that everybody is participating at that level. Everybody is aware enough of the room that they're going to eat a little more quickly. Maybe they're not going to linger and talk during the peak hours. And I think maybe that's where it falls apart for me. I know that somebody's just going to maximize their lunch break. I know that they're going to sit there and chat when they're done eating. And so if I see an opportunity, then I think, you know what? I read the room. Other people didn't read the room. They had equal opportunity to read the room. Since they chose not to, I will benefit from my ability to think ahead. And I think that's fair. And actually, like in the conversation, if Tony were here and I had to look him in the eyes, I would try to phrase it delicately, because if he feels strongly about it, I certainly wouldn't want to offend him on this point. But I do think that since everybody else also had the opportunity to camp on the table, because they chose not to, fair is fair.
Yeah, and I think where it breaks down for me is I'm kind of operating on an assumption that there's kind of a taboo in reserving the entire row of the movie theater, right? So there are kind of knobs and levers we can move and turn here to kind of change this trolley problem of sorts. You know, if the place isn't super busy and you're holding a bunch of stuff, you got a big heavy jacket, or that's the kind of case where it's like, oh yeah, sure, it's a convenience anyway, and likely there's going to be a table popping open. No one's really going to have to sit around. But I think when that changes when the place is just jam packed, and if there's significant time in between the person that's ready to go sit down and the time it's going to take you to get your food. Yeah. So if that's like significant, 5-10 minutes, then that's when it kind of starts falling apart. And then the question is, did everyone have the opportunity to take the seat, or is it possible that the seat wasn't available when they first got in the restaurant, and after they were in line for a little bit, then it freed up, and they didn't leave the line, which maybe that would have foregone their order or whatever, right? So let's assume they couldn't leave the line. Then they didn't have that equal opportunity. Or, and the other thing, and let you respond, would be, did nobody take that table because it seemed rude?
Yeah, well, there are definitely, I think, some folks that are more into people pleasing, and some folks that are more into kind of just taking care of themselves, and that'll be a social dynamic where there's going to be haves and there's going to be have-nots, the ones that are probably more agreeable. And this is an axis that Jordan Peterson breaks down a lot. He talks about agreeableness, and there's general distribution of agreeableness between genders, and so men tend to be less agreeable than women. But then within that, there's always the bell curve, and there's going to be more agreeable men and less agreeable women. So there's a significant overlap there. So one possible point here is that some guy like me, who probably rates a little bit lower in agreeableness than others, might take advantage of that situation. And then there may be a woman in line who might be more agreeable, who will now have to stand because I was being an inconsiderate non-gentleman. And so if we can harken back to what we talked about in a previous podcast, the John Rawls notion of some folks are going to be disenfranchised, and so the rules should always be put into place that those most likely to be disenfranchised should be the benefactor of inequality. That's probably where the concept of being a gentleman enters the equation. Other people have thought about this before. They realize men are more assertive. They realize we're going to try to dominate a space. And so it's become ingrained in certain cultures to go out of your way to not do that.
Yeah. I'd like to throw another scenario in this. The person in line, is on crutches or has a disability or something, or kind of the gentleman type of thing you're saying. There was a time in culture, I think, when the gentleman would give up his seat, for the lady, or particularly maybe even more for an elderly lady.
Yeah, but I'm a feminist, so
Yeah.
those women can stand and eat their sandwiches.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we'll see if Tony has any reaction to this. But
What about mapping this onto a slightly different but similar problem of giving up your seat on public transportation?
yeah, I totally see the argument for someone with a disability or elderly. That to me, that's just absolutely. I've done it and will do it. I'd be curious where the feminist point of view would be on it, because I would almost dare say some people might be insulted. If a young, healthy female, is standing and you say, "Oh, here, take my seat," it's kind of like, I can stand. I'm
Sure.
younger than you are.
Yeah, I can imagine a situation where that would occur. I would also hope that maybe more intelligent understanding of the gesture might prevail, and it's not like, oh, I'm trying to propagate toxic masculinity or the patriarchy, but rather, hey, I'm trying to do a nice thing. I'm trying to make culture nice. Because I do think we're losing a little bit of that just in general, and maybe this touches on that point as well, and probably Steelman's my opposite position to what I'm currently taking. But that is that we have fallen away a little bit from the default being treating others with the golden rule, treating others with kindness. And instead now it's sort of becoming more socially palatable to be very selfish. I think of one example my wife talked about. She lived in Hong Kong for a year, and she was there when she was maybe, I think, 5 years old, 6 years old.
Wow, okay.
Her family was going to be going on a mission trip to China, and then a few days, weeks, I forget how long the timing is, before the trip was scheduled to occur, Tiananmen Square happened.
Wow.
And China was off limits to U.S. travel for quite some time. And Hong Kong at that point was actually a British territory. It wasn't part of the mainland of China yet. And so that was plan B, and that's where they landed. And because of such a dense population, and perhaps maybe back in the, like the late 80s, early 90s, also maybe a less fast food centric culture, when you'd go out to eat, because there were so many people there, there was no guarantee of having a table. And the culture there was different than the culture here.
Sit with strangers kind of a thing?
No. You would hold your food on your tray, and you would stand behind the table that you wanted to sit at. And you would just hope that that person would finish their meal in a timely fashion, get up and move.
Huh.
But you'd sit and stare.
Oh, wow.
Or stand and stare, rather, while they sat and would eat. And the people sitting at the table, I don't think acknowledged the people who were standing. It was just sort of like a queue system. They'd queue up, they would wait, and you'd hope that they weren't chatty Cathy, because they might take a whole lot of time, but you wouldn't eat from your tray until you were seated. So your food might get cold if it was hot, or warm if it was cold. And that's just how it was. So it was a very different social dynamic. It was very order focused, and I guess it had to be when you were dealing with such a large population.
I'm so impressed you didn't swap out Chatty Cathy with a very clearly
Chinese
Asian
name.
Chinese name.
Chatty Shu.
You're welcome, Shu. Well, that's probably plenty for a quick hit.
Oh, was that a quick hit?
Oh, I don't know. Is that a real one?
That was the longest quick hit ever.
Gosh, well.
Brought to you by Witch.
Grounded outlets. Should the ground pole be on the top or the bottom?
They should be on the bottom.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah? Why?
Yes. Because that way it looks like a face.
Right. Yes.
And I like it.
I've always been I saw a change, and I don't even know if it was in the code or the building code or whatever, but I saw a change in my lifetime where newer construction, they're put in the other way. And it bothered me. The face, everything about it, I was like, this is wrong. But I had one brilliant argument, and I'll even, hats off to my brother-in-law, Kevin. If you have the two-prong situation like this, and you take a piece of metal, like a nail or something, and you drop it, gravity's going to drop it down. You shorted out a plug, bad stuff. If you turn it over and you drop it, it has a chance of hitting that ground plug and either going right or left, no short.
Okay, well, Kevin, think about this. Where's your finger when you're plugging it in?
Right.
Do you want to be closer to the part where you're going to arc it on your hand, or would you rather have just one digit that might touch either a positive or a negative? Assuming you're not grounded, you're safe.
Hey, I didn't say it was perfect. Maybe we just have to rethink how we plug things in.
Shocking. Pet peeve. This is a quick hit.
Quick hit. Okay.
Quick hit. I do IT work. It's not all I do, but I cannot walk through a hallway without somebody stopping me. Hey, Paul, quick question. It's never quick. And I'll tell you 3 reasons why. One, oftentimes they don't know what they're asking yet. So it's actually a conversation. It may be a quick question to start a conversation, but it's a conversation.
Yeah. So it's not even a question. It's not quick, and it's probably not a question.
It's usually a series of statements, followed by a quizzical look.
Yeah.
But number 2, if I'm in the hallway, I'm going somewhere. I'm coming from or going to a place, and it might be that I just have to go pee. And if you want to start a conversation up when my bladder's knocking, I'm not having a good day.
Yeah.
You don't have my favor already, and I hate that. But 3, and probably for me the most irritating, is that let's say I'm leaving the bathroom and I've got nothing on my afternoon agenda. You've just assumed that you're next in line, and you've also assumed that you're not interrupting something that comes with psychological switch cost.
They've also assumed you wash your hands, but go ahead.
Coming out of the bathroom, you know the solution to this one? A hearty handshake, a smile, and some prolonged eye contact.
And there are a lot of paper towel in there. My hands are dry.
Or why are my hands wet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about things that really grind your gears. At the top of my list would be people driving in the left lane and not passing.
Yep.
Basically creating a rolling roadblock. You get to people who would just pull over in the left lane and they just stay there.
And they ride in tandem with the driver in the right lane.
They
it's not like they're
the speed of the cars in the right lane. And I'm thinking, if you're going at that speed, why are you in the left lane? The left lane is there so you can be differential speeds, you know.
That is a really polite way of saying so that you can speed.
Yeah. But it's so frustrating because they are dictating to everyone behind them what speed they can go.
Yeah.
And if they would just follow the rules, use the left lane for passing, and then get back over,
So are we?
people would have freedom of choice.
Yeah. Are we
as far as
specifically
what
talking
speed they wanna
about
drive.
divided highway, like interstate? Yeah. I think where this falls apart for me, because I've had friends make the same comment, but they apply that same thought to like Versailles Road.
No.
You know, and that's where this is where my gears came in. I would hear people. I used to live on Woodford Drive, right off Versailles, and people would complain that the people are in the left lane and they need to get back in the right lane when they're done passing. And I'm like, the left lane, they might want to turn left, or we might want to use both lanes to double the capacity. And you're exactly right. In the interstate, divided highways, situations like that, yes. But when you move to the city, I think the rules change.
So I'm gonna do something I will rarely ever want to do on this podcast, but it's very appropriate. I have many times reminded my wife, "You're in the left lane. You either need to go faster or get over." And in her mind, it's not a problem. She's going the speed limit, or she's just not thinking about it. She's a little bit ADHD, and so she's probably just focused on something else and not paying attention to the function of the lane. So I'm with you, Joe. I feel like even in town, there are a lot of folks that will coast in that left lane, but that second behavior is maybe more obnoxious than the first. If somebody else speeds up a little bit, they'll speed up a little bit too, because they want to occupy that spot. They want to stay there. And I think there's a degree of entitlement or narcissism that's driving that.
There's like competition to it too. I've always felt like I've told my daughter in teaching her how to drive, it's a lot easier to get behind someone than in front of them. So if you're driving, you want to get in that lane. One of the things we've learned just driving around town is try going behind someone and see how much easier it is, because there's that constant competition where it's like, no, I don't want you in front of me. And I don't even know if it's, conscious, like it could be subconscious, maybe.
Yeah, well, you know why guys hate to stop for gas, right? because all the cars get to pass them that they work so hard to get in front of.
I have had that thought on the interstate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
You work so hard to get in front of all those other cars, and
Now-
then you stop, and they get to.
Now, how many times have you noticed on a road trip where you pull over and you get gas, and then you get back on the interstate and you drive for 10 minutes or so, and then
you
you
pass
pass
the
that,
same
that
people.
truck? It's usually a semi, and you pass them and you go, yep, I've caught up to you.
That's my benchmark for, okay, I need to speed just a little bit more to get back into the position I was previously in. Now, I've thought about the 2-lane blockage from a safety standpoint, and I've wondered this for a long time, because I think you mentioned, or you used the phrase, it's sort of like setting the pace for everybody, like a pace car. And I've wondered why we didn't think of rolling pace cars as a safety measure to control for speed, because I could imagine it wouldn't be terribly expensive to just on certain blocks of hours or on certain days that are high collision days, holidays, and things like that, maybe just running cars constantly, police cars in tandem, to make sure that nobody can go faster than that rolling blockade. And the only counterpoint that I can come up with mentally for why that would be a terrible idea is the feelings that this conversation evokes. Because while on the one hand, controlling for speed is absolutely a great safety idea, that would increase road rage incidents and aggressive driving in my mind. If I was sitting back there, go, 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 I have to use the bathroom, I'm late for work, my kid's got to get to soccer practice. And I wonder if it's sometimes safer to just let somebody have that extra 5 miles an hour.
I think you do see a pacing, a self-pacing when a cop is out there. Everyone goes the speed limit, and I think the problem is that there are just not enough of them, and they can't be everywhere. But as interesting, it's similar to those flashing signs that say your current speed, and if you're above a speed, it flashes. So it's kind of shame people in it. You could just have a pace car; it's not even a cop car, and it drives and says, if you're going faster than me, you're speeding.
Yeah.
And it just shame people into it. I don't know. I mean, you're right though. It might road rage it. I don't know. Okay, quick hits. Let's go. Next Friday. What does that mean? Today is Tuesday.
Yes.
When is next Friday?
When is the next Friday, or what is next Friday? Because next Friday is a movie, isn't it?
Okay, fair.
But yeah, what are you trying to convey when you say
Yeah,
let's hang out next Friday?
Right.
I assume when you say next Friday, you don't mean this current upcoming Friday, but the one that follows.
So in terms of duration of days.
In terms of duration of days, I would say more than 7.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I think that is the classic definition of next Friday, because there's another Friday and it's this Friday, and
Yes.
that would be the next one coming up. That to me, that's pretty straightforward and it should make sense, but it's so confusing. If I say next Friday,
You still have to sort of ask, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't, you know what you assume,
Yeah.
but you also know what other people may assume.
and I think a lot of times people say in their head, "Oh, the next Friday," like the next one that occurs.
Yes. I make a habit now of saying, all right, when we're going to meet, let's do Friday the 25th.
Yeah.
And that way, Friday the 18th, which precedes it, is not even considered. It's not even an option.
But then that's great. But now you're completely sidestepping using the term, which we have to do, unfortunately. But it's unfortunate because there's a perfectly good term for both of them. You should be able to say,
This Friday.
"Hey, let's meet this Friday." No. Let's not meet this Friday. Let's go to the next Friday. And you could do it. I guess you could do it that way. You're still using the terms, but you're pointing out pretty clearly. I'm not. Now, the rub that comes in is I feel like the closer you get to Friday, the more confusing this gets.
Yeah, if you're talking about Thursday,
Yeah.
now are we saying let's do this next Friday?
Right. That would be
That'd be, to me, that's obvious now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Friday. You mean the next Friday.
right.
What about Saturday? Mm-hmm. I think closer on the tail end, right?
Oh, yeah.
When I say Saturday, let's hang out next Friday.
Now-
we just had a Friday.
Right.
So we mean the one that we didn't just experience?
See, the distance you are away from the Friday or whatever day we're using, it confuses things. But you did throw another one in there that it's another quick hit. Everyone, you get a freebie. This one I think is just fun and hilarious and annoying. You said we are on Thursday, and you said let's meet next Friday. There are people in the world that are bothered when you say Friday on a Thursday and you actually mean tomorrow? Have you ever had that?
No.
Like,
no.
hey, let's, you want to do lunch Friday? Today's Thursday, let's say. Do you mean tomorrow?
Oh, they get upset about it, audibly upset.
It's like, I just used its name. Would
That's
you,
right.
I mean, you'd rather I refer to
This
it as
is like
its pronoun?
The proper name versus the relationship. Hey, do you want to hang out with your dad? Do you mean Doug?
Right.
Same guy.
Yeah. I will say, and here's my steel man. I will say that if someone does it's Thursday, and if someone says, "Hey, you want to have lunch Friday?" I think you can clarify with them. Oh, absolutely. You do realize tomorrow's Friday, though, right? Because there's a convention to where if you're talking about the next day, you should probably use the pronouns, if we can jokingly call it that, but instead of its name, because that implies that you know what day today is, which...
And I hate that assumption because I don't know what day it is.
Right.
How dare you assume that I know what day it is? Let me throw one more out there since we're in time right now.
Yeah, okay.
Let's push that meeting back.
Oh, God.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about pushing it in time to a later time or in time to an earlier time? What do you mean by pushing it back? Because pushing it back could mean back to an earlier hour, right? You're pushing the number back. Or it could mean that you're pushing it further into the calendar later.
Yeah.
So depending on how you think about time and space in relativity to the way it's positioned on your schedule, you could mean two different things. And I encountered this 2 weeks ago. I had somebody that wanted to push a meeting back. And so somebody was proposing that our 10 o'clock meeting be a 9 o'clock meeting, and somebody else assumed it meant that it was going to be an 11 o'clock.
Right.
And it ended up being half a dozen emails when all they had to say was, can we do this at 11?
So again, we have a term that exists that's ambiguous. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the traditional definition of pushing it back is that moving it forward in time, right?
Correct.
So
pushing it back is pushing it forward.
So I picture someone like laying on a calendar and using their back to the past and using their hands to push the meeting invite into the future. And that's the only way I can conceptualize the pushing of it back. But yeah, I'm with you. Time, to me, it's very clear. Back to the Future made it pretty clear. There are directions. There are conventional directions in time. And back is in the past.
And forward
is in the future. If we're going to push a meeting back, and I know the real definition. I think it irks me enough that I purposely get confused.
Yeah.
So maybe we just stop using it altogether, or maybe I'm the dummy. I don't know.
Just speak plainly.
Yeah.
And
qualify.
be specific.
Yeah.
When you say push it back, go ahead and finish the sentence. Let's push it back to 11.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going to get that one dummy that's like, PM?
Can you pull a meeting
Forward?
I mean, no, there isn't an opposite to it. Let's push it back.
I don't know. I'm gonna suggest we pull our next meeting forward and just see what people think.
Yeah. Give that a try. So here's one we kind of talked about a little bit, but let's flesh it out. Flesh it out? Flush it out?
I've always heard flesh it out. Like you've got a skeleton.
Yeah.
And then you're going to add meat to the bones.
Yeah. So that was not the quick hit, but there you go.
But flushing it out could be something completely different.
Yeah. Like a
Because if
plumber.
you're flushing it out, perhaps it's already there and
Yeah.
you're revealing it.
Yeah. I could see how those terms get conflated because of, well, let's go ahead and just segue. Rabbit hole or rabbit trail?
That depends. Mm-hmm. So if you're going down the rabbit hole, then it's the whole Alice in Wonderland. We're going to see how deep this thing gets. And so you're going to want to uncover a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But if you're going down a rabbit trail, then that presumes that you're in the woods and that you're following a path, but it may not be a human pathway. It may go any way a rabbit is interested in going. And that may vary, and it may not take you anywhere in particular.
Yeah.
So rabbit trails are if you know somebody who will tell a story,
Yep.
and they'll go on a rabbit trail and they'll tell you a completely not related story because that's in that compartment in their brain.
And I have conflated those two terms together until you pointed it out when I was trying to correct you. You said rabbit trail. You really meant rabbit hole. And I clearly see it now. But I think it is almost like in usage, people are misusing it, and it's getting. And I did some Google searches, and it seems like there's a lot of acceptance of rabbit hole, meaning going off on a tangent.
Yeah, I'll throw another one out there. I think that's in the same domain, and it may be on the list. But when you say the proof is in the pudding,
Yeah.
well, the original saying is the proof is in the eating of the pudding.
Yeah, I think it's the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Oh,
But
that's
this
a way
is-
more British
yeah.
way to say it.
Yeah,
the proof
exactly.
of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah.
I can hear Prue from Great British Bake Off saying that,
Say that,
while she's got some food in her old lady teeth.
Right. Yeah, no, that one, I had a grammar a day, like a tear off. Those aren't even a thing anymore. Did anyone use
Tear
those?
off calendars.
Little tear off calendars. I had those for years in a row in my old office at KTC. And I had a grammar one, and it was like common misuses. And another good one that, again, gets just terribly misused and misused in a way that's just kind of comical. But coup de grace.
Oh yeah, coup de grace.
Yeah, you hear coup de grace. I think because of Mardi Gras. But yeah, the term is coup de grace. And I don't
Which
know,
is what, cup of grace?
like a graceful blow or something like that, like a final graceful blow.
Okay.
But no, the
I
cup.
took French. I don't know French though.
Yeah, no, the cup is, so what Mardi Gras is Fat Tuesday, right? So coup de grace, when Miss said, is basically saying something about a fat blow to the head or something. I don't know.
Yep, we got a fat blow to the head. Now we can't remember what coup de grace is.
That's right. But yeah, that one, coup de grace, I hear all the time, and and it just makes me cringe because it's coup de grace, and I think it's spelled Grace.
And maybe that's where it's conflated. People are trying to make it sound French.
Yeah.
But they don't
Yeah.
know French.
Yeah.
At least not around here. Now, my Canadian family listening to this, they're going to butcher me later in the pronunciation and in the accent. My dad got so mad when I was in middle school. He made me take French. I did not want to take French. I wanted to take Spanish because that seems useful.
Yeah.
In Kentucky, we're far closer to Spanish-speaking populations than we are anything remotely close to French. Maybe like some small African neighborhoods, but...
Yeah.
I had to take French, and I got in trouble because I cheated. Did I ever tell you the story?
No. Gosh,
Okay.
we gonna publish them?
Yeah, no, the statute of limitations on middle school cheating has long expired. But I didn't want to do it, so I didn't put any effort in, and I had a test where we had to do conjugate forms. Like I, you, he, she. And I just didn't bother reading it, didn't bother memorizing it, wrote it down on a piece of paper, slapped another piece of paper over top, and then pressed real hard so I could see between the two sheets, which in my middle school dumb kid brain was a great strategy.
Yeah.
Except it's very apparent that that's what was going on. So my teacher walked up. What are you doing? Cheating. So I had to have the parent-teacher conference.
Ooh.
And I dreaded that parent-teacher conference because I was guilty. It was premeditated. I'd planned it out. I executed poorly. Nothing about this should have worked out well for me. And in the course of that parent-teacher conference, my dad, who is a Canadian and who lived very, very close to French-speaking Canada, Ottawa is just, it borders right over the Rideau Canal, French-speaking population. So he spoke French, and he heard my teacher speak French. And he said, "What business have you got teaching my kid?" He said, "You sound like a redneck." And he populated his diatribe with words I won't say on the podcast, but he basically cussed out my middle school French teacher.
Huh.
And what was supposed to be me getting in trouble for cheating ended up being my dad lambasting the teacher for sounding like a hillbilly while speaking French. And then my dad came out of there. He's like, "I don't care that you cheated. That guy's a moron." And I learned nothing.
Yeah.
Quick hits, give them a try. Sell you what quads are, here's a lie. Quick hits, they aren't that long. Then again, neither is this song.
Thanks for listening to The Soapbox. Eric, how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.